What's up, everybody? So the next moon sign we're going to go through is the moon sign of Scorpio. And this is another water sign. So now we're on the second water sign. Pisces will be the last. There will be a couple videos after this. But to start with, if you know a Scorpio sun or you know a Scorpio moon and you know a little bit about astrology, they're intense. Scorpio energy is intense, and there's no really other way to put it. As far as the moon sign goes, Scorpio moons are, this moon sign is in what is called its fall. So the moon does not like being in the sign of Scorpio. So if you have a Scorpio moon, it's actually very difficult to have a Scorpio moon. This goes for Capricorn as well. So those are the two most difficult moon signs to have. And why it's difficult, I'll go through in the video, but the moon is just not happy in the sign of Scorpio. So Scorpio is the sign of destruction, it's the sign of rebirth, it's the sign of change and transformation, and the moon doesn't like that. It wants comfort and stability. So Taurus is its opposite, which means that like Taurus wants that stability and that comfort and the abundance, and it builds things. Scorpio does all the opposites. So I'll go through what it means to have a Scorpio moon. So a couple of the positive traits of having a Scorpio moon. Scorpio moons are highly intuitive, highly creative once they start to understand their emotions. They're very loyal, they're very committed, and they are very passionate. On the bad side, so on the negative side, and these are some pretty bad negatives where like the other moon signs, yeah, it's like, something you can deal with. These are the darker emotions that we, hear about in human nature. So jealousy is a big one. Scorpio moons can be very manipulative, especially when they're not evolved. Also, they can be very vengeful. It's not good. They can be possessive, they can be controlling. So an unevolved Scorpio moon is just going to like exhibit a lot of dark emotions, and they can be very reactive if they are not like in a higher form of the moon sign. And what's interesting about Scorpio is that it goes through this transformation. It's the sign of transformation. So it starts out as a scorpion, with poison, and it's low to the ground. It's not a good animal. And then it transforms into a snake, and then it transforms into a phoenix, like rising from the flames. And then it transforms into a dove. And that's its highest expression, is that you want that, like the dove symbolizes love and compassion, and you really want those things. But let's start to where, like how to handle this moon energy and what it is. So emotionally, Scorpio moons have very intense and often overwhelming emotions. They're overwhelming to them, they're overwhelming to people around them, and especially as you're growing up, one of your parents, probably your mother because it's in the moon sign, is going to be overwhelmed by your emotions and try to push them down. So a big thing with this moon sign is that the emotions are so overwhelming, so chaotic, so powerful, so extreme. They do go from extreme to extreme, that it's too much. It's too much for anyone to deal with, and so they're pushed down really in childhood, adolescence, like throughout life. It is not okay to be like this emotional with what you're feeling. And so a big thing for a Scorpio moon, so like the way a Scorpio moon reacts, initially when they're younger, they may have like tantrums, and they're the highest of highs, lowest of lows. And that's where this like pushing down of the emotions could come from, of like, okay, we got to stop this with this kid. And or you never did react. You just had really strong emotions and you put a cap on them and you bottled them up. And what tends to happen with Scorpio moons is they don't really react. They have this poker face until they are like, and you know, things just build and build and build and build and build until they implode or they explode. And then what's been described as, when I first started learning about this moon sign, is that they are very volcanic, eruptive emotions. And so they can get scary. Because what happens is, like, these emotions that probably started out not too bad, they just like, they warp and they distort and they twist, and then they grow and grow and grow within you. And then you go, you know, you go nuts. If something doesn't go your way or you lose control. Usually it's like a control thing. So the best way to handle this is, like, you have to find a mode of expression for your emotions. And with this placement, what's really important is the house placement. Knowing what house your moon sign is in, if you're in Scorpio, is going to be everything, because then you can understand, like, okay, I have to channel it here. And if I can channel it here, this is where I have a lot more power and I can empower myself as well. So someone that comes to mind who has this moon sign is Roger Federer. And Roger Federer was like the coolest, calmest tennis player of all time. And that's what he was known for. He was known for not reacting. He didn't even sweat. He was graceful and elegant in his tennis and very, very artistic and very intuitive. Now, that's not always how he was. So when he was a kid, he would have tantrums, he would throw rackets, and I saw a documentary on this where he was not nice. And he, you know, and that is what comes along with this moon sign, especially when you're younger or you haven't like dealt with these energies, is like you can be downright mean. And people know it. You can just give a look to someone and they will not mess with you because of just this intensity within you. So you don't want to do that, of course. So like the biggest thing you can start to do as a Scorpio moon is to start to introspect and to start to go inward. And this will help you delve up your own emotions, because you have to start with yourself. And so like what you can do is, like, a lot of self-reflection is really good. Meditation is really good for a Scorpio moon as well. And just anything where you're starting to go inward and you're starting to question your motives, yourself, why that happened, all of that kind of stuff. And so a Scorpio moon can be a born psychologist. Like, they know things that other people like have to study in school, because they start to understand their emotions so much and they feel other people's emotions too. So it's not only the intensity of their own emotions, it is the intensity of all of this undercurrent of emotions around, with like, especially like in your family, you know, growing up, like you can feel what your mom's feeling, you can feel what your dad's feeling, you can feel what your siblings are feeling. And it's overwhelming. But what Scorpio moons like don't have initially is a way to express that, either through art or creativity, or even through words. And finding a way to take your emotions and translate them into words can be massively healing for a Scorpio moon. And so what you're doing is, like, you're going inside, you're going into the depths of your psyche. And Scorpio is ruled by the planet Pluto, and Pluto was the god of the underworld in Greek mythology. So essentially what you're doing is going into your own underworld, and you are confronting your fears, your insecurities, the darkest part of yourself. But you don't want to stay down there too long, because what can tend to happen is, like, you get so engulfed by it that it can lead to depression. It can lead to extreme selfishness, which, like, you don't want that. So the biggest thing is, like, once you go down there, come back up and express what you've found, so that you're not just down there in the depths for too long and it's too heavy and you can't come back up. So, there's like a lot of instances in Greek mythology where like heroes went down to the underworld because they had to do something, a task of some kind, and then bring that awareness back to ground level. In Dante's Inferno, the same kind of thing happens where like you have to go into the underworld in order to get to purgatory and then eventually to heaven. So like there's all these instances of like how liberating it is to go into your own psyche and then bring out and like cleanse yourself of what you really are feeling. As a result of this, like a lot of people that have this moon placement, because they can go in and they like sense all this emotional stuff. Once you start to get to know yourself more, you are like a human lie detector. You can sense lies, you can sense inauthenticity from a mile away. So Scorpio moons do not suffer bullshit lightly. They can smell it, they know it's happening, and even if the person is like, on the surface telling them something, if they feel something else, they know, it's not true. And so like this is where a Scorpio moon can unnerve the other moon signs or just other signs in the zodiac in general, or just other people, because they have this ability to just like look at you and know you're not telling the truth and know that something's off. And so like, for example, you could be having a conversation, you're like, hey, how are you doing? And the person's like, fine. It's like, you don't seem fine. What's going on? And so like that level of like seeing someone is a gift that a Scorpio moon has. And usually a person will tell them what's going on with them because they just feel compelled to, especially if the Scorpio moon's done a lot of work on themselves to kind of like elicit like that, really tell me what's going on, but like with a compassionate stance. And so a Scorpio moon can be holding a lot of secrets from their families, from their friends, from their lovers. Any of those, like a Scorpio moon starts to like take in as a result. Another thing is that as a Scorpio moon starts to investigate its own darkness and its own emotions, this is really important because it starts to build intimacy, which is what a Scorpio moon truly wants. So this is the second of the relational moon signs, and a Scorpio energy is all about merging. It wants to merge on a soul level. Yeah, this sign gets intense, and so but to do that, what can tend to happen is that Scorpio moons will shut down their emotions if they're not ready to. And so like intimacy becomes very hard because walls go up, trust issues abound, and so like you could repress your emotions so much from childhood that you don't even know what you're feeling. You just have all these walls, all these defenses up, and you never get close to anybody, and you hold everyone at an arm's distance, and all of those things can definitely like happen with a Scorpio moon. But what a Scorpio moon truly wants is that intimacy. They want that closeness. They want like the physical intimacy, the emotional, the mental, the sexual, like they want all of it. And Scorpio is the sign of sex. It's the sign of like sexual energy. And if it's repressed or it feels like it needs to be compulsive, that's not a healthy energy to have. Like you want to be able to have this flowing energy, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And so to get this, it is so important to then go inward and look at your own darkness, look at your own demons, and look at your ability to start to heal these things. Because when you do that, you are able to transform yourself, but it starts with you. If you try to do this with others, you come across as controlling and manipulative and possessive because you're probing everything else, with the scorpion stinger, but you're not probing yourself, which is really where the work needs to begin and where it will ultimately give you the most transformation and give others the most transformation. Now, if a Scorpio doesn't do this, or a Scorpio moon doesn't do this, and they start to become controlling, they start to become possessive, what can happen is that they're not looking at their own darkness, and they see the darkness in everything else. They see the darkness and the fear and the insecurity and everything else, and it becomes all consuming. And so jealousy starts to happen, possessiveness, and just vindictive behavior. So if someone has wronged a Scorpio moon, they will not forgive them. They will not even forget what happened, and they will try to make that person or other people around them feel the pain that they feel because they haven't addressed what's really inside and what's really going on. And so then this is where the moon sign gets bad. This is where it gets vengeful and vindictive, and you don't want that. But it starts with going inward. And if you can't go inward yourself, if that's not something you can do, I really highly recommend therapy with this moon placement, and going to a therapist and really getting to the root cause of, at the core of it, it's probably it's a control thing with Scorpio, because Scorpio is a controlling sign at its worst. And you don't want to be in a place where you are just allowing your emotions to get the best of you and to overtake you. And I'm sure, if you're watching this, you've been there. I've been there. And it's not great. You want to be able to express your emotions in a healthy way, in a healthy outlet. And when you do this, you truly transform who you are, who the people are around you, because you've done the work on yourself first. And then you've taken all this junk out. You've cleansed the wounds and you've allowed it to heal so that you can now do that with others, and that you become a light and a guiding force for other people that may not have the bravery and the courage to go into the depths. And this is why Scorpio moons make great psychologists or psychiatrists, or anything where you are going down into your deep emotions and taking them out and making, and showing the light and showing the ability to renew yourself and rebirth yourself and rising like a phoenix from the flames or from the ashes. It's really powerful when you can do that. And there are a lot of different celebrities who have done just that. So Lady Gaga has a Scorpio moon, Katy Perry has a Scorpio moon, a lot of performers do. Bruce Lee, Jennifer Lopez does, and Ryan Reynolds does. So he's on the more evolved side of that. Chris Evans. There's a lot of celebrities that have this moon sign that have made the most out of what goes on internally and just really expressed it. This is a longer video than the rest of them, but I wanted to give you a good representation of a Scorpio moon because there's a lot of differing sources out there, but it's a lot. I hope you enjoyed it, and Sagittarius is next, and it's a little more lighthearted. It's fiery. See you guys later. Take care. Peace.